I'm Caitlin V. I'm a sex and relationship coach and a internet personality, TV personality, YouTuber, influencer. As a sex and relationship coach, it's my job to help people to have the best, most epic sex life that they can imagine for themselves. So I knew early on that I was going to work in sex and relationships from the age of 15, watching the sex education that I was getting at school, but then going home and experimenting with my boyfriend and feeling that there was something really missing from education. They were missing the pleasure, like the reason that people have sex at all, right? So focused on disease and pregnancy and not what sex is all about, which is feeling good, connecting to another person, experiencing satisfaction. And so I knew that I was going to take that on as my career. I didn't know exactly how. So when I first got accepted into college, I told everyone I was going to be a sexology major, which didn't actually even exist at my college. I just kind of had that in mind. And I went into study gender and women's studies and art history and political science. And then I graduated, decided to go on to get my master's degree so that I could actually study sex from an empirical perspective. And this was very tolerable. You know, I could very easily say to my parents, I'm getting a master's in public health, I'm going to be in a lab, and I'm going to work on studies on sexuality. It's very like clean and a little bit clinical. And I ran all these studies. I was a researcher and like coordinator. I got to recruit bisexual women and like march in the gay pride parade wearing a giant vulva costume. And I also was an educator at night. So I would go and work with homeless youth or LGBTQIA youth in group settings in the evening. And I was getting so much out of that. Then I got invited to come and work on my doctorate. And when I was working at that level, I found myself literally in the ivory tower. Like I had the corner office. I looked down on the garden. I had the only coffee machine in all of the graduate school. Like I was winning. I was so successful at graduate school, but I was so miserable. And I was living every single day to go work with these groups of gay youth and polyamorous adults and teaching and talking to people one-on-one at night. And that was where I was getting the most joy and the most fulfillment. And I realized after a year that I needed to leave my doctorate and figure out a way for me to work one-on-one with people and to work one-on-one with people, but also to get a message of pleasure-based sex positivity to a larger audience than I would ever have been able to affect by publishing papers that were going to be read by other academics. So I started this coaching practice and I was recruiting clients one at a time on like Reddit and Facebook. And then I met someone who already had a YouTube channel and he invited me to do a video with him on squirting, which is like the internet's favorite sex-related subject. And this video blew up overnight. It had 6 million views in something like 6 months. And I saw the power of the number of people that we could affect very quickly. And I also saw that there was a lot of demand and there was a lot of misinformation out there as well. And coming from a research perspective, I wanted to create something that was based in reality, was based at least a little bit in truth and empirical study. And so I started my own YouTube channel and it lit up like that. I went from getting one client at a time, one post at a time, to having literally thousands of people messaging me and emailing me and filling out my coaching application. I had to start a website. I had to start a professional email address. I didn't have any of that ready, but I had this deluge of people wanting to get help from me. In fact, I did not recognize how successful my whole career would be. When I started my website, I started it with my real, legal, full name. It didn't even occur to me to use a pseudonym or like protect my identity in any way because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And here we are, something like 5 short years later, and I have hundreds of thousands of views, I have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, tens of millions of views, a television show coming out. It just blew up beyond my wildest expectations. What I realized very quickly is that the information that I had within me, that I had picked up just by being fascinated in the subject, just by studying and reading and listening for years was not just valuable to people, but was transformative. And when I would talk to them about the things that interested me, I would see how engaged and how deeply impactful and meaningful that is to them. But to me, it's just any other day, right? It's just something that I already knew and was already interested in. But watching the impact that it can have on a single person and then multiplying that using the internet and seeing the impact that that can have then on thousands and even millions of people. And for me, it's just something that comes naturally. It's something that I acquired naturally over time. And I didn't realize just how powerful what I already knew could be. Every video that I post on YouTube has comments, sometimes in the thousands, that are saying, Caitlin, this information changed our marriage. Caitlin, this information made me confident enough to get my first girlfriend. It made my wife have her first orgasm together. Or if I'd had this, it would have saved my marriage. Actually, one of the first copywriters that we ever hired looked at my course and he said, if I had had this during my marriage, I could have saved it. And I could have saved myself heartbreak. I could have saved my children having divorced parents. And that's the power of the information that's already inside. It's accessible. Our self-perception is so radically different than how the world actually sees us. And when we devalue the information and the expertise that we have, we don't actually do anyone any favors because we're not allowing ourselves to bring our brilliance into the world. It is a courageous act to acknowledge that you have brilliance within you, right? It actually takes a lot of guts to claim that you know something that other people don't. And the truth is, you don't have to know everything in your subject. As a coach, I only need to know a little bit more than my client to have a huge transformational effect on their lives. I don't have to have access to the entire world's worth of information on sex and sexuality. I'll never have that. I learn everything. I've been doing sex as a profession for 15 years, and I still learn new things every single day. So I know that I'll never reach the bottom of the well of information, but I only need to know a little bit more than the people that I'm guiding to have a huge impact on their lives. What I found is that we tend to undervalue the information that we have and overvalue the information that other people have. Or we assume that our colleagues or the people that we compare ourselves to are the real experts and we are some sort of imposter. But the truth is that people generally have an excess amount of information and competence in their subject of expertise. And allowing yourself to claim that, allowing yourself to own your area of expertise is bold, and it requires us to overcome that little voice inside of us that's telling us that we're an imposter and everyone else knows more than us. But the truth is that you do know your stuff, and at least you know a little bit more than the person who's looking to you for guidance.